You and I exist in three-dimensional space. Each of us has a particular size, shape, and location in the physical universe. But what about God? Does He exist in three-dimensional space? The Bible speaks of God as being present everywhere. The psalmist writes, "Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence?" And the prophet Jeremiah declared, "Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, says the Lord? Do I not fill heaven and earth?" The transcendent God is certainly active and knows what is going on everywhere. But is He literally present in every location? How does that work? It's important to remember that God is spirit. He's immaterial. He has no body. I've been amazed at the number of Christians I've met who think that God does have a body and sits on a throne up in heaven. But God is not the man upstairs. This notion is contrary to what the Bible teaches about the nature of God. Because God is immaterial, He's not limited to one location at a time, the way a physical object is. And God is simple, meaning He's not composed of parts. He doesn't have one part here and one part over there. Certainly, there are passages in the Bible where God appears to someone, but these are visions or dreams caused by God, not God Himself. The question naturally arises, if God has no physical presence, how is He present everywhere in space? In other words, what does omnipresence mean for a being with no material body? One might be tempted to think of God as somehow spread out everywhere, sort of like an invisible gas. But this would mean there'd be only a bit of God here and a bit over there. Moreover, according to modern cosmology, it's entirely possible that the physical universe does not extend infinitely, but is finite in size. This would mean that God is finite as well. And since the universe is expanding, God must also be growing in size at this very moment. To make matters worse, God is supposed to be wholly present at every point in space. As an omniscient being, God must know where He is. So, at each location at which God is wholly present, God must believe, "I am here." But since the term "here" refers to the location of its user, God will be in different belief states at different places in space. Thus, God at different places will have different intrinsic properties. This means He wouldn't be identical everywhere in the universe. There would be a lot of different gods. So clearly, the idea of God being spatial, literally existing in three-dimensional space, is problematic. How can we make sense of it? Well, God's omnipresence should not be construed to mean that God is literally here in this room, or in my coffee cup, or on the moon. It seems preferable to say, in line with traditional theology, that God doesn't exist in space at all. The universe He created cannot contain Him. He simply transcends three-dimensional space altogether. This is why Solomon, after he built the temple, said, "Will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you." When we say that God is omnipresent, we mean that God knows what is happening and is causally active at every point in the space-time universe. But He's not in the universe. This view that God is non-spatial makes sense in light of the doctrine of creation. For we know that God, existing alone without creation, is spaceless, because without creation, there is no space. God brings space into being at the moment of creation. Apart from the universe, therefore, God exists spacelessly. Now let's compare God's relationship to space with his relationship to time. God's creation of the space-time universe draws him into time because creation was a temporal act. It happened at a particular moment. By creating time, God entered into time. But his creation of the space-time universe would do nothing to draw him into space, because the creating of space is not itself a spatial act. It's not like bumping into something or jumping over something. So there's no reason to think that divine spacelessness is surrendered in the act of creation. What then can we say about God's omnipresence? It seems best to say that God is an infinite mind who literally exists spacelessly. His omnipresence can be understood in terms of his knowledge and his power. First, God knows what is happening at every spatial location in the universe. Thus, the author of Hebrews can say with confidence, "No creature is hidden from his sight." God is completely aware of all events occurring everywhere. Second, God's power is active at every location as the sustaining cause of every created thing. As Paul explained, in him we live and move and have our being. If God were to stop his sustaining activity for even an instant, the universe would cease to exist. For those who want nothing to do with God, his presence everywhere should be a cause of great concern. But for those who love God, it's a source of great encouragement, confidence, and hope. No matter where we are, none of us is ever alone. The psalmist was keenly aware of this when he wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me."